What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down on what the hell is happening, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So Lucid is up 15.2%, 1136 the high, 994 the low. So definitely a crazy day for Lucid. Plus, we're seeing a lot of good volume, 9.2 million shares being traded. Although looking at the flow, a lot of it is coming from algorithmic trading. So something, again, just to keep in mind. I'm sure a lot of the algos are feeding off of what came out associated to Lucid, in addition to what's being mentioned by Trump. So getting right to some of the data points, we did have mortgage applications and mortgage market index, a little bit lower than the previous, but still does signal a fair amount of demand. That didn't really move the market all that much. Rather, Trump's speech at Davos, that's what's really kind of helping the broader market. One thing that he did say that's really fueling things is that he's not going to use force to get Greenland. So that's a good thing, of course. I know that was on everyone's kind of mind, and World War III, blah, blah, blah. But he also did state, well, in fact, he said a lot of things, but one thing that I think is very bullish is that the stock market is going to double. He's stating that. So I do completely agree with this comment right here. So technically in the future, if the stock market does truly double, this screenshot of and kind of snippet of what he stated is going to be plastered everywhere. Trump is going to be the symbol of bullish stock markets. So a lot of people are very hyped up. Of course, again, Trump's saying a lot of things, a lot of which are fairly bullish overall. So that's kind of what's really moving the broader market. In Lucid's case, though, they did put out this. It wasn't official. It was just more of a side article. But Rockwell Automation partners with Lucid to support Saudi Arabia EV plant. So there's a lot of things here. I think some people are taking it out of context. It says that it's meant to help expand. I don't believe that they're truly expanding the capacity just yet, but they might be laying the foundation for kind of a smooth process. Lucid kind of did the same thing at AMP1 early on, but they used a kind of B-level company, if I remember correctly. I don't think that they were kind of publicly traded or anything, whereas Rockwell is. It is a 45.4 billion market cap company based out of the States, Milwaukee. So definitely good stuff, and I kind of researched them a little bit. They definitely know their stuff, right? And so if you want a successful operation, you need to pretty much hire one of these kind of companies. So in general, I think the market's seeing this as a very good positive and potentially even moving up the timeline, because I know Lucid previously did mention for AMP2, and it's kind of funny, I actually brought this up yesterday as something that Lucid needs to prioritize, but AMP2 did originally was stated between 2028 and 2029 for full capacity. If they can somehow move that up through this new partnership, that would be huge. And I think the market's kind of piecing that together as well, that they could actually have kind of fuller capacity maybe by the original 2027, and that would be massive for Lucid because they'll be able to ship to Canada, Europe, like anywhere for a fraction of the cost of what it costs to do it from AMP1. So I think generally speaking, that's a very good thing. I know as well some people see this type of price action and assume that there is a short squeeze occurring. Surprisingly enough, that's not the case. Shorts are increasing, 52,000 shares. So they're trying to kind of hold on, but still going into this crazy price action. We're at all-time high short interest numbers. So 36.52% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 47.61 million shares. So if, for whatever reason, Lucid's able to piggyback off of this good momentum, then in theory, I could definitely see a squeeze happening. One thing as well, cost to borrow has jumped up considerably, and that's been kind of growing. So it was always around that 17% range, jumped to 30. Now it's sitting at 102%. That's an annual rate, not a daily rate, but still that is rather high. So again, I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a squeeze, not mother of all short squeeze, and we're not going to $1,000, $2,000, but we could be seeing some obviously weaker shorts kind of closing out their positions. Looking at the options, 1.2 million in calls, 560,000 in puts. So definitely a lot of volume getting into Lucid, both through common stock as well as options. 54% of all the options being done are bullish in nature. From a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around 1150. So pretty much almost where it's at right now. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub 1050. So you kind of have that little bit more of a back and forth, but definitely I feel if Lucid is to break above some key levels, which I'll go over in a second, things could really heat up. Right now, these are all the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. So clearly, if you look at a lot of the sizes right here, this is where most of the volume is, again, coming from algorithmic trading. Nothing really wrong with that. I don't think anyone's complaining about that, but we did have 2 sells, the rest are buys. One big one pretty much right after the bell, 1.34 million. Aside from that, though, these are all the transactions occurring on the dark pool. And actually going back over here for a second, this is why I kind of find it comical, because this news technically came out at 523. If you look at the price action for Lucid during that time frame, it was flat. So this is why institutions, big money, they wait up until market open, and then what they do is they buy long calls, as well as then they buy the common stock, pushing the stock price higher. Their calls appreciate, and so they kind of make 2x easily from their calls as well as common stock. So this is why you had it pretty much right after the bell, a $1.34 million transaction, 976. So definitely interesting stuff always happening in the broader market. But getting back to it, with it right now at 1123, it is trading between this R2 and this R1. So 1145 is going to be that key point that you really want to watch for Lucid to get over today. If so, then you could see things really start to heat up. Flip side, 1109 and 1052 is going to be the next strong support levels. So Lucid, in my opinion, does need to put out their own PR, not just rely on articles, and clarify what this does mean. Does this mean that they're going to be moving up timelines? Or is this just that they're helping lay the foundation? This is where Lucid needs to add some clarity, because in the past, Lucid has relied on these types of articles to really push them higher. But unfortunately, the market wants clarity and some finite details. And usually Lucid never puts that out. This is why, in the past at least, we usually do see some level of consolidation during the second half of the day. So hopefully Lucid does put out something. Actually, this would be a very well-timed interview if Mark could pop on to Bloomberg. I think that would be very, very advantageous. But aside from all of that fun stuff on the actual chart itself, it successfully got over that 10-day moving average. The next big thing is going to be 1242, and that's that 50-day moving average. Generally, that's a massive deal for Lucid. Every time it breaks above that or below it, usually results in like a 30% swing. So kind of just watch for that. Aside from that, looking today, you see a lot more willing buyers, a gap potentially. So around that 1199. So that's where it could maybe head in the foreseeable future. But like I said, I think for at least the short term, it needs to hold this 10-day moving average, and that's sitting at 1076. So all in all, let me know your thoughts. It's good to see Lucid finally alive and doing something, and obviously prioritizing AMP2. That's obviously the big deal for Lucid going forward, and this is kind of showing that they believe that as well. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. One final thing, if you're looking for some solid buy signals, pop over to my Patreon. I put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades, worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.